good morning, viewers. Thank you for joining us here today. Today, we have with us Mr. Sunil Gupta, co-founder and CEO at QuNu Labs. He's an industry veteran with 3 decades of experience, and he's now on a mission of accelerating the world's transition to quantum safe security. Sunil, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you, Supriya. It's a great privilege to be with you today.
So, Sunil, I was hoping to gain your understanding on quantum safe security, right? Because India has experienced a very sharp surge in state-sponsored cyber attacks, right? A survey has actually mentioned that cyber breaches and related incidents have increased by 300% between 2021 and 2024. And apart from that, we are also aware of the geopolitical tensions that are taking place. In fact, CERT-In issued a warning to financial institutions and critical sectors to strengthen their cyber defenses to counter the surge in cyber attacks on Indian digital entities, especially following the Pahalgam attack, right? Added to that, there are also conversations about a potential cyber warfare that can occur, which can severely impact processes, considering everything from airports to banks are all digitally dependent. So with the rise in cyber attacks and breaches globally, regulatory bodies have introduced updated cybersecurity frameworks. So how do these regulations align with the growing need for quantum safe security solutions?
I think it's a very good question. See, what is happening largely, if you see, we have heard about hyper-connected digital world, right? In the last few years, we have seen bigger networks. We have seen users connected end-to-end, right? And not only to their private data centers, their corporate enterprise data centers, but also to public clouds, right? And a lot of hosted application. So we are in a new world, right? And this was evident in 2000 during COVID, when most of the enterprises had to go on cloud. We found that, during COVID, what happened was probably a extreme case of, hyper connection, right? And we saw what happened, right? The attacks went up significantly, but most of the people were not prepared. Still, what happened at that time and what we are seeing now is only a trailer, right? And I would say it's a very small scale problem that you're seeing. You are seeing these breaches here and there, right? Of course, people are still spending. India spends $3.2 billion, right, in cybersecurity every year. Even then, everybody, whoever is spending products and services in their organization, whether it's government, PSUs, and private enterprises, everybody is still extremely worried, extremely concerned, because despite of spending that much money, the people are not able to stop it. And I think one of the key reasons we believe of that is that hackers have a better technology, right? They have two advantages. One is that they have advantage of a same technology or a little better technology than the defenders, because defenders are also putting a readily available technology. In fact, most of the enterprises are using yesterday's technology to protect today, right? If you use yesterday's technology, it's like saying, I'm going to use MiG-21s or MiG-29s in today's war. You see, India didn't do that. India deployed latest Rafales, right? Guided missiles, BrahMos, which is the latest brand. That's the reason we could create that impact. Similarly, in cybersecurity, if you really want to create impact, you have to use latest technology. And unfortunately, most of the spend in products and services happening to say we are also using what my neighbor or my competitor is using. It is largely a compliance-oriented approach on the cybersecurity, which is bothering us. Very few organizations have innovation cells or the roles, responsibilities given to the CIOs or CISOs to say, look at evolving emerging technology. Look at how can you use future technology to solve today's problem or the future problem, right? That is where QuNu came in. When we were starting this business, we realized that we cannot win this game, right? Bringing a knife to a gunfight or a gun to a gunfight even. I need to have a cannon to a gunfight in order to win that. So we said, how can we help world do that, right? And that's the reason all this, guidance and everything coming in terms of cybersecurity from CERT everywhere, because people know that we can be attacked, right? So the idea is that how do we disrupt this whole thing? And disruption can come through two ways, right? One way is through tech, that you bring a technology which is giving you an advantage. Second one is you change the approach, right? So the quantum technology and quantum cyber security actually solve both the problems. With quantum tech, we are bringing a future technology which is at that time, 2016 when we talked about a threat of quantum computer which were going to come in 2030. So we said, can we bring the technology today, right, which will help us strengthen our defenses and so on, so that hackers probably will get a quantum computers or technology to break our communication maybe 7-10 years later. So we created that gap, a moat for defenders to have better technology compared to what the hackers would have, and not by 1 year or 2 years, but for 5 to 10 years. Right, that was the potential. So first time in the history of cybersecurity, we had the potential or the opportunity to equip our defenders with a technology that hackers won't have for a decade, right? So that was the first part. Second part was the approach, right? Today, if you see, most of the spend in cybersecurity is happening to make sure that malware doesn't get into my system. My systems are patched, right? I have a ransomware, my data is backed up, all those things. These are good to have. These are hygiene. We must have that in place. But having a good backup, and by having a malware on the system, is good, but is necessary but not sufficient, right? Because reason is, one small mistake by a user, one small click on a link on a mail that you will find you will not consider suspicious, can bring down the whole castle, right? So it is like saying one single door you open, right? And there's a thing Devi Sadwell said that the doors of the palace were always open from inside, right? And similarly, all the attacks, cybersecurity attacks, are done by the people inside the enterprises by clicking on the emails, by letting them do that. So we said we can't avoid that probably, because education is a big barrier here. How much you will educate, and the things are changing so fast. It might be difficult, while everybody should strive to do that. Why don't we change our approach and say, even if somebody get through our system and he gets to our crown jewels, can we ensure that he is not able to take away the crown jewels? Because that's what eventually we want to protect, right? So I think that change in approach would actually help us, I would say, change the cybersecurity paradigm. So I think, so this is what the quantum tech is all about. It allows you to do two things. It allows you to make sure that nobody is able to do a spurious authentication, right? Because you are going to use an authentication mechanism that can't be broken by any technology. So you will say, if somebody is authenticating to with an identity, you will be guaranteed that there is a true identity. So we are not allowing bad people to come inside. And even if it's by mistake somebody is able to do that, we will have an encryption. So we will have a crown jewels logged into a wallet, right, or a vault that can't be broken. So somebody has to carry a vault with them, but they won't be able to break it. So if we take away the incentive of somebody coming to my house and taking away the crown jewel. So by these two problems or solutions that are there with quantum tech, it makes us different, it makes it essential, and it makes us highly relevant for today's world.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Sunil. And you also brought a very pertinent point across that, the attackers are probably more sophisticated as of today than the defenders, right? And one of the things that has added to this is maybe, technologies like AI. While it is definitely empowering us, it's also empowering the bad, the threat actors. So, all of these modern technologies are serving as a double-edged sword,
Yes.
if I could say. So,
Yeah, that's
as
right.
quantum technology, quantum computing advances, the risk to classical encryption methods, like you said, is becoming all the more pronounced.
Yes.
So, how do you see quantum-safe solutions transforming enterprise security strategies, especially in regulated sectors like, banking and finance?
Yeah, so banking and finance, obviously in the regulated industry, it takes time for adoption. When we started in India with this tech, first adopters were defense and Indian government, right? Because we wanted to look at the areas where the critical infrastructure is, critical digital infrastructure, right? So we looked at areas where a wrong command to one of our infrastructure could create a havoc, right? Or 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 a tapping by a adversary on our critical optical fiber network could leak sensitive information, right? So we went ahead and protected some of those earlier, knowing that sooner than later that enterprise regulated industry specifically will come around. And so what we are seeing in a bank that while the regulation will still take some time, is though of course it's not very far away. I would say it's probably 6 months to 1 year away. SEBI actually did a guidelines last year, right? RBI, we are hoping to them to come around and release the guidelines probably in the next 6 months to 12 months. But some of the leading banks who will not wait for regulation, who really care about leading the change, right? They are already have come in front in both international and national banks. We have been already working with them, and they are again looking at these two areas, right? That how can they use a quantum security tech to enhance their authentication, right? So today, if you see that authentication happens through digital certificates, right? So they are trying to see, hey, can I enhance, can I make it a quantum safe digital certificate, which means that certificate is signed by a algorithm, right, which can't be broken, or which is quantum safe, right? It can't be broken today, it can't be broken in future. So that is one area. So authentication, tokenization, then several use cases there. Other area is, of course, that how do we make sure that our confidential data, customer data, and other data which has a long shelf life, right, that is protected using quantum safe encryption, so that even if it is stolen tomorrow, right, breach happens and the data is stolen, we can recover from, like even ransomware, right? If somebody puts a ransomware, and today what a modus operandi is, they encrypt your data, assuming that your production will stop, you will pay the money to get the keys, right, to decrypt it. But imagine a scenario if a client has encrypted their data using a quantum safe encryption, and they are regularly creating a backup. Even if they're attacked by ransomware, in very quickly they can restore their systems production using the backup data, and they don't have to pay any ransom for that, because the data that is stolen or taken away by the ransomware guys, they can't decrypt your data. Even if they use their own lock, but we have a much better lock underneath, which they will not be able to. So basically, we take away the ransom or the ransomware, right? So I think that is another very interesting use case for banks. Of course, the banks are looking at a lot of interesting things. Banks are looking at secure transactions, right? So when as a phone banking or mobile banking, when from my phone I click on a ICICI Bank app, it goes to ICICI Bank server, a lot of my password, credit card information, everything that flows. How do we make sure that that particular channel that connects my phone to the bank server is fully protected? So secure transactions, secure authentication, and secure bank. Now a lot of branches are there, and the banks they share information with the main data center. All of that we need to protect. So very interesting use cases for a regulated industry that we are seeing. Same is true for telecom. Now telecom, what we are seeing is, telecom is a regulated industry. Telecom guys have also understood a very interesting thing. They have an optical fiber network for which they have already paid money, right? There's already investment has already gone. Now, what their challenge is for telecom guys is how do they increase their ARPU? How do they make more money or revenues from the existing investment? Today, every year, their billing is only coming down because the clients is not ready to pay more for the existing infrastructure, right? So for the only way for them to do is to provide some more value-added services. So now the quantum security allows them to offer a quantum safe network as a new capability as a service. We call it quantum security as a service on the same optical fiber networks to the enterprises, to the banks, and say, hey, I'm giving you a network. You can connect your data center from Mumbai to Pune or A city to B city. And that by little more incremental investment, they can actually generate a new revenue stream for themselves. So I think there is a very, very interesting value proposition for regulated industry.
I'd love to see how the quantum security as a service will work out, honestly. So, Sunil, while we are on the topic, one more thing that I'd like to ask you is, compliance, right? Compliance is no longer a tick box, and, different regions and industries face their own set of cybersecurity challenges. For instance, India has seen regulatory shifts under SEBI and RBI. I mean, we see the SEBI chief asking banks to up their games almost every single day. And Europe, on the other hand, emphasizes GDPR compliance. GDPR has been there from a long time. So how does QuNu Labs address these varied challenges through its solutions?
So what happens is, Supriya, is that one thing is that quantum security or cybersecurity does not weaken any of the existing regulations, right? In fact, for example, GDPR, if you see, GDPR doesn't prescribe anything, any specific tool or technology or methodology. But GDPR generally says and advises banks to use the best available technology to protect them, right? So if there is a quantum safe security available, but they're not used it in tomorrow the league, they're going to come and ask saying that, hey, this technology is available or it is mandated by NIST, so why we are not using it? So I think what we are doing, if you ask me, quantum cybersecurity is another option, is another arsenal in the in the kit of enterprises to use that to save their data. So what I mean that whether it's the PCI DSS, because everywhere they say if you keep a customer data, keep it safe, keeping it encrypted. So what we are saying is keep it quantum encrypted, right? Take one more step. So I think we are giving. So earlier there were opportunities. Now we are giving them another options as well as the technology. That how can you extend it even to a one level safer, right? One higher level of safety. So that way we actually help enterprises leverage better technology while being compliant to all the regulations, right? And for example, the NIST has now August 2024 actually released 4 new algorithms that are now getting implemented. Of course, we are implementing for our clients, banks and telcos and everywhere else. But I think very soon, in 18 months, 24 months, is going to become as a mandate by the. Right now it is guidelines, and I think 12-18 months it will become a mandate. And I think that is where it's going to be a compliance rush. Everybody has to implement and do compliance rush. So I think we are preparing the world. We are preparing ourselves to help the world get ready for that migration, probably in the next 12 to 24 months that we foresee.
Right. That's great to know, Sunil, because, the regulatory landscape is evolving at an unprecedented rate as well, yes. Right? Because in India alone, if we speak about India, there are 7,000 odd regulations that companies and enterprises need to keep up with. And the number is increasing by the day. The DPDPA is coming in very soon, yes. And it's already come in. And, organizations have to keep up with it. And CERT is issuing guidelines. So, how does QuNu Labs help enterprises stay compliant and secure while also helping them keep up with the evolving global regulatory environment?
So one of the key challenge for the enterprises right now is that encryption is something that was always taken as guaranteed, right? And something that has not changed over the last 25 years, 30 years. So that has been one thing which has been a blind spot for most of the enterprises. They assumed it is working. Encryption is as long as you're using a ABC, it is fine. So that's the way we people, and because this new threat that has emerged because of the quantum computing, either the people are not aware, most of them, or even if they're aware, they think that it is not a today's problem, it is a future problem, right? So I think first thing that we are doing now is to help customers test their infrastructure, crypto infrastructure, cryptography infrastructure, to understand where they stand, right? So I think the compliance is the last step. First step is to know where you stand vis-a-vis the compliance, right? I think today we are now have done, we say quantum safe assessment, where we have a sort of a tech behind it, platform and methodology and so on, to allow, and we have also partnered with a couple of big fours who will help customers do that assessment, self-assessment, other thing, to know where are they in terms of compliance, right? Today you'll be surprised that more than 70% of the organization are non-compliant in terms of their encryption, right? So, like example, we have been talking to some of the customers, and when we went to them to implement, then first thing we realized that they have to move to a different, they have to upgrade the whole, we call it a transport layer security, right, to a different level, because they were sitting on the two levels below, on which you can't implement the new technology, right? So I think some of these things are coming up. People are becoming more aware of the crypto health, I would say, right? So this awareness is definitely there. We're helping them with the tools and technology to make them aware. And the second part is, of course, is what are the solutions they need to implement to get the compliance, right? So I think we have also built solutions around that, right? And we get to a customer engagement with clearly highlighting that this is the gaps and this is the way you can fulfill. So I think this whole plan is in place, and there's a complete methodology in place from assessment, implementation, and to compliance. But I think there's still, I would say it is still it will still take some more time before it becomes one of the top priorities for the CISOs. Today, even if you see, if they want to do it, still it is lower in the priority list for the CISOs. I think that is where, because they have the bigger compliance gaps then probably to address, as you said, that there's the thousands of compliances that they have to do before they come to a new emerging compliance issue, because they still have some more time before it becomes mandate.
Spoke a little bit about AI earlier, and you mentioned insider threat, right? That's when I thought about this question, because the threat actors are definitely using AI. If I had to speak as a layman, I mean, I'm probably the weakest link in my organization's cybersecurity framework, because I'm the one who's clicking on these spoof emails. The threat actors are definitely already using AI. They are sending me mails that are all grammatically correct. Earlier, we would be told that the mails are there are grammatical errors. Those are coming from the threat actors. But now they're using generative AI to send us very nice mails, and they're of course using codes and all of that to generate all the more sophisticated attacks. So I'd like to understand, how is AI being used along with quantum technologies to enhance proactive threat detection and response mechanisms, particularly in the face of advanced persistent threats?
So they go together, right? I think both of the AI and this has two different roles to play. I would say, if you give an analogy, AI job is largely to ensure that who is trying to build up a threat around my house, if somebody is building a tunnel to get into my house, if somebody is continuously snooping into my house, somebody has put some drones over my house. So AI is about advanced threat detection, right? So AI, if you see in the cybersecurity, is about threat intelligence, threat detection, right? And then threat prevention, right? So as we know in this AI cybersecurity space, there is something called dwell time, right? Where dwell time is typically 120 days. I don't know if it changed recently, which means that any enterprise, it will take 120 days before when a malware gets into your system and somebody takes over your control, and it takes but 120 days before they exfiltrate the data. So AI will help you identify the cyber kill chain being formed before it actually get to the advanced stages. You will be able to detect and kill that the cyber kill chain, right? Is largely useful for you to get, I would say, preventive strategies and all those things. But AI is not going to help you, right, find more advanced AI attacks, right? And that is where the quantum will come at as the final barrier, final gate, because you can't cross that, right? Because today, so that's the way it is. It's like a more inside security. It's like I'm sitting there. If somebody is going to get into my vault and Mira, I want to take out some there, I will know about it. So I'm the final gate. But my security guard at my house could be the AI, right? Trying to make sure that nobody enters into my house, identify all the threats and so on. So I think both have to go together, right? The only thing that I'll say that if important, everybody must use AI, but quantum is the final implementation you need to do to make sure that your data remains, or your crown jewels remain secure and nobody can actually get access to, right? That's what I would recommend. Not either and or, they are very good combination if you go together. But I think the AI has another problem that we are seeing now. Advanced AI has the ability now, especially generative AI and other advanced models, that they would have the ability to find patterns in your encryption. It's like saying, if you see my passwords, normally, I mean, people could be different, that if normally with the 70-80% of the people, if you look at the last 20 passwords, you will see a pattern, because we don't change the full password, make it too complex because you have to remember and so on. We change few out of 8 digits, right? Only 3 or 4 will change. And if people find out your last 10, this thing, they can probably find out what could possibly be your potential 2 or 3 passwords. There's the AI's ability to find patterns and then break your encryption key or encryption is easy, right? I think that is where the threat of AI in quantum computer becomes more bigger. People will use AI and not wait for the quantum computers to still find weaknesses in your encryption. And that is the reason that's the reason we are very strong proponent of this theory, that you don't have to wait for quantum computers to come, because your data, if you lose your data today, after that, this data, you can't do anything with it, but it's gone out. But what you can do is that if you use my quantum safe encryption today, even if you lose your data tomorrow, nobody will be able to break open. So you're safe, right? And that is the reason why it is so necessary that you don't have to wait for quantum computers to come. You have to implement quantum safe encryption today, right? So that from that day onwards, you became absolutely secure and saying that even if you lose my data, nothing will come. Just imagine, and there's a one CISO was saying that, hey, I am using so much security and so on, but when I go home, I remain so extremely worried. I don't know when I will receive a call saying something has happened. Imagine that. I'm not saying that he will still not be worried. He said, Sunil, just help me with one thing. Even if I'm breached, my data is not sold on the dark web. Because if that data is sold, then there's a cases, I have a legal suit, I have a very difficult, I have to pay to the customers, I have to justify to a number of people. My data, losing my data is not a problem. Somebody misusing my data, decrypting my data, misusing data, that is a bigger problem for me. And then my answer was, yes, I can solve that problem for you. So you see that how this technology, quantum tech, helps you provide a lot of comfort and make you free of stress from this continuous threat on your mind that you are under threat and news can come anytime. So that's the way. And in fact, jokingly, one of the CISO some time back, I think he was doing it in a lighter note, but it showed his concern that a lot of CISOs today of big enterprises, they have their resignation in their pockets, right? That is a big breach happens, and so that's the threat they have in their mind, right? So I think we are now giving them that leverage, saying that you have now future technology that if implemented correctly today saves you a lot of embarrassment and a lot of issues and everything else from eventuality. So to us, attack is not an eventuality. Today attack is an eventuality. So what we are taking it forward is that attack is a means to an eventuality, right? So we just make sure that the person is safe, right? So I think the enterprise is safe, right? So that is where I think so AI and to me AI and quantum computing both are together. They are the very potent threat for the security, cyber security, but together they are also the, I would say, the boon for cybersecurity. If somebody uses them well and together as in a combination and implementing the right thing in the right place, I think you can solve a lot of your headache.
True. And Sunil, it's great to know because, the kind of reputational damage that these breaches lead to. Sometimes companies are not even able to recover from that. There is breach of customer trust. There is reputational damage. That is like the biggest eventuality of a cyber attack. So it's great to know that, even though this company is breached, the data can be saved because even though companies have advanced cybersecurity protocols in place, they still do get breached. And it wasn't exactly a breach, but we all saw what happened when the CrowdStrike thing happened and airports across the world they were like non-functional for a day or so. We got boarding passes which are handwritten.
Yeah.
So imagine if it was a breach, how bad it would be. So if you could share insights on how quantum security can help mitigate such risks and reduce the attack surface for enterprises, and what role does QuNu see itself playing over here?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest challenges that for us is about who is getting into our systems, right? While people are using deep fakes to, what are they trying to do? They're trying to what we call it replicating somebody else's identity, their identity stealing, right? And through that they're convincing me that they're talking to somebody else rather than, right? So I think that is where it's all about identity, because we trust, right? At the end of the day, I think I'll just little back off in the terms that cybersecurity is all about digital trust, right? And people misuse, hackers, what they do, they misuse the trust to attack you, right? And we know we trust what? We trust family members. I will trust somebody who's calling me. I will trust somebody. So they're now trying to find ways to make me feel that I'm talking to the right person while there would be somebody else behind it. So the modus operandi is that trap a user into believing that he's talking to the right guys, steal their OTPs, steal their passwords, steal their credentials, and then get into their and get access to what not supposed to be theirs, and then from there exploit it, right? So I think quantum tech significantly eliminates a huge what I say, identity stealing. Quantum tech is integrated into identity access management, what we call it, where you make sure that you are identity access management, you are doing another multi-factor authentication, I will say another factor authentication using quantum tech. So now I may have a password created by AI. I may have a fingerprint also created by AI, but it's very difficult for somebody to create a quantum certificate or quantum authentication. Is not possible for somebody to, because there's no quantum computers to do that. Even AI can't do that. So I think that is where you have to significantly reduce the attack surface area, right? So that is one area that I significantly believe where the most of the genesis of all attacks happen, right? And second thing is, of course, that I said, what we do, we in using this quantum tech, we protect data in transit and data at rest. Anything that you are, for example, if I'm a user and I'm working from home, I connect to my data center. I connect over the internet. Now, unfortunately, and I'm using, let's say, my mobile phone. Now, unfortunately, neither the mobile phone nor the internet are made for security. They're made for convenience. That's the reason, one of the reasons why people are not able to solve cybersecurity, because you're trusting the devices of mobile phone, which is not a secure device. And the internet is again not a secure way. So what we are doing is we are taking these two elements and said we will put a quantum safe agent or a client on your phones, and we will put a secure protocol in the internet, because a quantum safe protocol in the internet, which will ensure that from your laptop or a mobile phone, when you access to a data center, it is going through a tunnel or a secure tunnel that is like saying you have a Z security, right? We are sending you through a Z security from your house to an airport. Nobody can access it, right? That's what the Z security is all about. So quantum security is like a Z security for us to transact and share our confidential information from a phone or a laptop to a data set. So by we reduce, so imagine we reduce the surface area in identity, we reduce the surface area of data on the phone as well as in the internet, right? I can do the same thing with the cloud. So today, but the quantum tech, it fits onto an endpoint security. It gives you network security. It gives you edge security. It gives you cloud security. So we have implemented the solutions all end to end, and thus we take care of the largest part of the surface area that you can see. Normally targeted is taken care.
Thank you so much, Sunil. I must say it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and it's great to know that quantum encryption can take care of so many issues as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Because mostly when we talk to people, right, they mention multiple endpoints as one of the biggest issues when it comes to securing their enterprise, and as well as the other things that we spoke about, AI and all of it. And it's great to know that even though the hackers can enter into a company's network, the data will still be safe. And it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And the tagline for this interview for me would be that quantum encryption takes out the ransom out of the ransomware.
Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.